The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Nova Society. I am your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gersher and Dr. Mark Bound, my favorites and yours. And today we are going to talk about the boat war, I guess, that we're having. I don't really know what to call it. Strikes on boats in international waters, are they not? People on boats from Venezuela who are out in international waters. And Scott, you were just saying right before we started, there's a third strike. I thought we were only on our second. There shouldn't even have been a first.
Right.
And J.D. Vance saying he didn't care. He didn't even care where they were, that this was in international waters. And he said, I don't. Well, I'm not going to repeat what he said. I do try not to swear when I get very, very incandescent. I do say words I shouldn't. Yeah, please, Scott, go ahead.
So on Monday, today's Wednesday as we're recording this. On Monday, I guess Trump announced that U.S. forces had killed 3 alleged drug smugglers that day, in a boat. And he had, of course, made a similar announcement in early September saying that the military had killed 11 people and accused them of transporting illegal narcotics. That has been disputed by people who, like Admiral Stavridis, who said that, generally speaking, you don't have 11 people on a smuggling boat. The fewer people, the better. And so it kind of raises a red flag that wasn't a drug smuggling ship. And then yesterday, as he was on his way somewhere, a reporter asked him if all of a sudden the military activity that's going on was intended to send Maduro, the Venezuelan president, a message. And he said, well, we've actually knocked off 3 boats, not 2, but you only saw 2. There's not very much transparency here, obviously, which kind of is a little disturbing that the United States of America, I would say, dramatically escalating the use of deadly force. Incidents that are nowhere close to the coast of the United States. They're not releasing any evidence verifying who was on the boat, what they were doing when the U.S. Military blew them up. And I guess we're being asked to take it on faith that we should believe Trump when he says we're gonna stop people, from smuggling drugs into the country. And he has, as I'm sure everybody remembers, a particular fixation on a criminal gang, Trend Aragua, saying that Maduro controls the cartel, the gang, whatever you want to call it, which he may or may not. Again, they don't offer any evidence for any of this stuff. They just kind of throw it out there, and I guess we're supposed to take it on faith. And it seems to me highly problematic.
Yeah, and Scott, you've been following this a little bit more than I have. Has there been any response from Venezuela at all? Have they done anything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're gonna bomb back or anything that.
No, they're a little bit too much of a mess to do anything like that. But it's interesting to hear their response. My question is how do you know that this wasn't Gilligan and the skipper and Thurston Howell III out on a boat? How did you know that these were actual drug smugglers? And again, if you're not going to be transparent, we just have to take it on face value. We have to take it on faith.
Yeah, look. Here's the thing. This is once again, and we're seeing it internally in the United States, that Trump prefers to use the military than he does police, and I think that that's an issue more or less of convenience for him, because the police are supposed to, say, stop, halt, we're the police, get stop a second, let us see what you're doing, that kind of thing. And the military, when they want to strike a target, they just strike a target. And these are probably drone strikes. I don't know if they're flying jets over there, but they may be. I know he put a bunch of F-35s, which is our craziest jet, or our most expensive jet, in Puerto Rico, with the goal to patrol with F-35s the Caribbean. And this seems to be part of that. As far as what Maduro is doing back, they're just kind of complaining about it. I think they've raised the issue a couple of times that there is no evidence that these people are anything but pleasure boaters, and Trump needs to make a case. I don't think that they're in a position, as you said, to do anything more than that. They're not invading our country. No. Trump would say that they have been all along, but I mean, that's just crazy talk.
Yeah. I mean, Venezuela is in such a mess right now that, really, when you think about it, they don't have, a lot of options other than the diplomatic options, which are quite limited onto it. But I was just thinking, when you were talking about this, the Professor, Marianne, and Thurston Howell III getting blown up as they're on their 3-hour tour. It just seems to me that, if you're going to use the military for something like this is what the Coast Guard's for. But where this is happening, I'm assuming, is not within the jurisdiction of the Coast Guard. So the idea is that it's coming from Venezuela. You're on a boat. You're taking it somewhere. I'm assuming they're thinking like Mexico, dropping it off there and then coming across the border. Well, okay, that's all right. But why wouldn't you just use the land bridge that you have to go from, because you can go from Venezuela to Mexico without having to go into the water. So it just seems a little odd to me that they would, you would automatically make this assumption unless, and as I say, it is very possible that they know far more than they're telling everybody. But yeah, you've got to make the case. And I think that's one of the issues that we're running into in today. The attitude has become that we can do what we want. And I'm talking the administration. We can do what we want, and we don't have to justify it to the people that basically are paying for it, the American people. Because like Scott said, that fighter jet that they've sent is like insanely expensive. And yeah, if you're going to use it for this purpose, hey, if you're in the right, you should be able to make the case. And therefore, no questions asked. But to just, arbitrarily start, shooting at craft in international water, that gets kind of suspicious when we start looking at this and have to ask ourselves, is this again another distraction? Because there's so many things he does that is nothing more than a distraction.
Yeah, well, and it also creates more of a problem for him. And I think at one point recently, again, when he was going somewhere, Trump said that there were 300 million Americans who died last year of drug overdoses.
Out of a total of 340 million, I think, in
people. That's right. So, I mean, our entire country would have been wiped mostly clean of residents. I mean,
Brooke, it's math.
That's just not possible.
It's math. Trump, we know two things. Number one, Trump is not good. He doesn't English well. Number two, we also know his math is pretty bad. Anybody that says that I reduced drug prices by 1,500% does not understand math. So, I can see where he gets those things a little confused because, like, it's math and it's English and, it's all those things that he's really bad at.
Yeah.
This leads me.
You say something?
Yeah, I mean, well, this leads me to a new term of art that I heard the other day that I think is kind of interesting. because the response from Republicans has been, pretty awful. Like J.D. Vance says, I don't give a shit. It was not really much of a response to saying like, oh, you're committing acts of war against another country, and your response is, I don't give a shit. It's kind of okay. Well, it's not very nuanced, is it? So for years, we've heard, and I've been accused of this so many times, of virtue signaling. Now, the in vogue thing to do, at least among Republicans, is vice signaling. We're going to break the law, and we don't care, and we're gonna say, you're soft on drugs. We're not soft on drugs. We're going to do what we have to do to kill as many people as we possibly can who are smuggling drugs in, without offering any proof, without offering any evidence, without a trial, without any of the niceties that are traditional when it comes to police work and or executions or whatever you want to call this. It's just they're just vice signaling all the time now in the Republican Party, and the only time that it seems that they're not vice signaling and they are, I guess, virtue signaling, or at least acting like a bunch of I don't know what the word for it is, liver heart liberals, is when one of them gets assassinated and you can't say anything bad about him because he's dead now. I mean, that's really the only time that you're hearing them kind of go, oh, but you really shouldn't do that. That's not really a nice thing to do. Well, we're talking about degrees here. Saying something about somebody can be nasty. As Fetterman said the other day, calling somebody a Nazi is not a nice thing to do. But what we're talking about here is murder. This is homicide, multiple homicide, and for another country, people from another country, and the fact that the only Republican who's spoken out against it seems to be Rand Paul, who very often doesn't like what the president does and is a libertarian who doesn't believe in government anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those things that eventually, these things start out small like this, and probably there's more that goes on that we don't know about, of course, because as Scott points out, our government is not overly transparent. And now the question is where does this go from here? And I agree. I don't think Venezuela has the military capability to do anything about it. And I think that's one of the things that separated the United States from, say, like Russia and some other countries in the past, post World War II. We knew that you couldn't do anything about it, but we didn't hold that over you. We still tried to act in a responsible way. And again, no one is saying that these boats weren't drug smugglers. Nobody's making that statement at all. But we're saying is nobody knows, and the people that supposedly do know are not telling anybody. And if you're gonna make your case for support for these kind of actions, you got to be transparent. You just can't say, "Well, I said so, therefore." It's not like when you were a kid, when your mom said, you had to eat your broccoli, you had to eat your broccoli. That's not where we're at right now. We are at a point where if you want to be responsible as government, if you're going to take actions and you have the receipts to say, hey, this is an issue, and yeah, we're taking action of it, and here's the proof of that, that's the responsible way that a responsible democratic government, at least the governments that we remember, would enact to be able to make the case for these attacks. So
it gets a little bit worse when you start thinking about what we do know, because there's a lot we don't know, right? There's no context. We've seen the videos. I'm sure you've seen the videos. Yep. It's just a black and white grainy video of a ship, going through the water, bouncing up on the waves, and all of a sudden it explodes. Right. But we don't know where it's going. There's a report that it actually was turning away from the United States when it was hit, and there was no warning or anything like that. So they weren't taking evasive action or anything like that. They would just They were just doing whatever they were doing, whether it was pleasure boating, drug trafficking to somewhere else, presumably out there in the middle of the ocean, or maybe they were meeting a seaplane. We don't like. There's no way to know. Who knows? We don't know. But this we do know. Tren de Aragua, which is a prison gang from Venezuela that Trump talks about all the time, commits crimes, horrible crimes, but is not involved in narco trafficking. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime says that Venezuela is not an international drug trafficking nation. It's not one of the ones that they have on their radar. Now, is it possible that has changed and we're just catching up to it? It's possible, but it seems awfully unlikely. And I'm sorry if Trump has lost my faith in him and his ability to tell the truth, but I really don't. This is not, we're killing people really for no reason at all that we can tell, and that's not the kind of thing that should happen in the United States of America.
No, it's not. And I guess we beat that one.
Okay,
yeah. Oh, and unfortunately, with the non-actions, well, not unfortunately, criminally, with Congress. They're not doing anything, of course. There's no leverage to make this stop. I mean, I don't know what the end game is.
Well, I guess we don't know what the end game is because we really don't know, what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
If this is to stop drug trafficking over the oceans, okay, all right, I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. But show me that that's what it's about. Show me that you're hitting actual, drug traffickers. And if you are strong in your conviction that you are, then you must have some sort of proof that you are. And hey, disclose it. Show everybody. And then I'm sure that everybody here, if they say, well, these were the drug kingpins or these were the mules or this or that, I'm sure that all of us will say, yeah, okay, we took some action. Maybe it was a little drastic compared to what we probably should have done. But, okay, I can now say some action was justified. Then we can complain about, the level of the action.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that what you do is you board the boat and arrest the people who are there for drug trafficking, assuming they are drug traffickers, and then you try to get them to talk and find out for whom they are working and work your way up to the people who are actually in charge of the cartel. Right. I mean, and of course, somebody else is simply going to take over after that, but at least the removal of the initial person who's running the cartel will disrupt it for a little while. But killing the people who are simply delivering, they just find somebody else. I mean, it doesn't. You don't even know who they are.
We don't need to get too lost in the weeds here about like what is it. But here's one thing that we do know. What they like to do, what Trump likes to do, is take an action, and then when somebody says, "Oh my God, that is like I just did," you can't do that. That's so wrong. They turn around and they go, "You're pro drug smuggling. You are right." Yeah. And they turn it into that kind of thing, and it works for them because they have enough people who go out there and speak about this stuff that they're convinced. They convince the American public that these liberals are so pro drug smuggling that they're objecting to us blowing ships out of water that are clearly headed this way full of drugs. It's just it's a fairly common tactic that they use for politicizing events.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, we could move on to something else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and as we've talked many times on this podcast, critical thinking critical thinking. So thank you so much to all our listeners for spending some time with us on the Nova Society. If you are not yet subscribed on the podcast of your choice, please do so. It is free. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium offering social-political issue solutions to NGOs and international government agencies through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.